Hello, and welcome to Hangar 412, the show that gives you the rundown on the lore and technology behind some of our favorite machines in fiction. In this episode, we'll be breaking down Belka's ensnaring snake, the BM-335 Lindwurm, long-range subsonic strategic nuclear-capable bomber. The Belkan Munitions BM-335 Lindworm was originally designed from the ground up to deliver nuclear weapons to targets over vast distances. However, nuclear warfare wasn't the 335's sole mission, and it could be equipped with a standard iron bomb loadout similar to any other bomber, or reconnaissance equipment, again standard for many bombers of that era. The BM-335's unique double-cylinder fuselage that gives it its distinctive silhouette is the result of the massive and high-tech at the time Nightingale bombing radar system that allowed for precise bombing during daylight and nighttime bombing raids. The bomber also upholds the age-old tradition of adding defensive guns on the tail. However, unlike bombers of the past, the Lindworm's defensive tail gun was remotely operated from a gunner station in the cockpit. This greatly increased survivability of the gunners. In past wars, gunners were often seated in the ball turret itself, which left them highly exposed and giving them nearly a 50-50 chance of survival or getting killed in combat by enemy fire. And even if you did survive the battle, you had to trust that the landing gear would hold up. Many gunners were often killed when the landing gear on their aircraft would collapse, crushing them inside the ball turret, often on the belly of the aircraft. Moving to remotely controlled defensive guns put an end to situations like those, and was greatly appreciated by Belkan bomber crews, as one can surely imagine. With bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-29 Super Fortress aircraft starting to show their age. During the late 40s, the Belkan government placed an order to the South Belkan Munitions Factory for a long-range subsonic strategic nuclear-capable bomber, taking its design heavily from the B-29 Super Fortress, Tu-4 Bull, and the cutting-edge at the time YB-52 Stratofortress and Tu-95 Bear, which were still being prototyped and tested at this time. The Tu-95's design was a larger influence on the earlier design concepts of the Lindworm than on the final product, mainly around the cockpit area. The final production model features a cockpit more similar to that of the B-29 or Tu-4. And in 1951, the BM-335 Lindworm took her maiden flight and entered service with the Belkan Air Force that very same year. However, over the years, the Lindworm was slowly converted from its original nuclear-capable design to a reconnaissance aircraft by the early 1990s. But, on March 25th, 1995, Belka started a war in all directions with every nation of which they shared a border. So, to aid in the war effort, several BM-335s were converted back to their original mission profile. Though Allied records state the bomber would only be called out on sortie for just 2 missions during the entirety of the war. During the opening months of the Belkan War, a squadron of BM-335s and B-52s were dispatched to eliminate Valais Air Base, located in the Tyrol Mountains in eastern Ustio, a region that had recently declared its independence from the greater Belka Principality. However, despite what military strategists on both sides were expecting, all B-52s and BM-335s, along with one XB-70 Valkyrie and one F-117A Nighthawk, were all shot down by mercenaries serving the Ustio government military. The Lindworm's legacy is also that of the most infamous day. On June 6, 1995, at around 1330 to 1400 hours. A squadron of 9 BM-335s would depart from an unknown base in Nord-Belka to carry out the mission they were originally designed for. Helmed only by those still most loyal to Belka's Fatherland Workers' Party, the bombers were tasked with dropping nuclear weapons on civilian population centers within their own country along the southern border in a last-ditch, scorched earth attempt to win the Battle of Valdrak and prevent the Allied forces' advance into Belka from reaching what was considered by many far-right Belkans to be the birthplace of the Belkan race in the north. However, Belkan separatist fighters and a flight of 2 Ustio fighters that were originally en route to Sudentor to eliminate anti-air sites in the area were able to eliminate all 9 Belkan bombers before they were able to drop their weapons. However, and tragically, the Fatherland Workers' Party were still able to detonate 7 nuclear weapons on their own nation's soil, and 12,000 innocent men, women, and children died that day. And there have been no sightings of the Lindworm since that faithful, muggy, overcast summer's day. Well, sucks to end on such a depressing note, but that's all the lore we got on this truly unique aircraft. A truly rich and dark backstory for a relatively old and simple 3D model. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about a low-poly enemy NPC from a 14-year-old PlayStation 2 game as much as I did rambling about it. Well, denizens of the internet, thanks for stopping by my humble little channel. And until next time, remember, keep your heads on a swivel.